Well, it is that time of the year. Do you smell it, everybody? Postseason baseball. It is time for the MLB Playoffs. And I, Austin Kleschka, I'm going to bring you some MLB Playoff Predictions. Let's get started. Starting with the Twins and Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are back in the postseason once again, and so are the Minnesota Twins. But that is not a good combo. That's about as good as jelly and baked beans. They're on a playoff game losing streak. I believe it's about 16 games. The Twins just do not know what to do once they get to playoffs. And both of these teams can hit for sure. The Blue Jays, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, those are the main two guys that are going to lead that lineup. Over on the other side, Carlos Correa. Then you got some banged up players like Byron Buxton, who I'd love to see healthy during this time of the year, Royce Lewis, and other guys. And I think it's just going to come down to the pitching for both of these teams. Kevin Gausman has been solid in Toronto ever since he arrived. Sonny Gray had a great year for the Twins. But at the end of the day, I think the Blue Jays have the better pitching. They added bullpen at the trade deadline to help that, and I think the bats are going to hit better than the Twins. I just think it's going to be another bad year for the Minnesota Twins in the playoffs until I see differently, but this is just something they've never really excelled at in this recent era of baseball. So give me the Toronto Blue Jays winning this series 2-1. Rangers and Rays, both very good and I feel underrated teams. The Rangers have tons of amazing bats in their lineup that they've been putting together offseason after offseason. Marcus Semien, Corey Seager. Then you got guys like Adolis Garcia, Josh Jung, who have been built up and brought to this Texas Rangers team. And that's pretty much a lot of what the Rays are. A lot of homegrown, a lot of we're going to trade away this piece, get these prospects. We know how to develop them, get them to the major league level and make them stars. Andy Diaz went crazy this year. Randy is also very solid for that lineup, and I think it'll come down to whoever's bats stay hotter, and that last month for Texas was very good. They got hot at the right time, and I don't think these pitchers will play much of a factor. I really think it's going to be the bats for these lineups, and you had the Rays who are getting hits with runners in scoring position, hitting for average. You had the Rangers who are doing that but with power, and I think it is really going to be those bats for the Rangers that carry them past the Rays, upset the Rays, honestly, and I think the Texas Rangers take it 3 games, but win 2-1. Diamondbacks and Brewers. Diamondbacks were a part of that late wild card madness in the National League, and they were able to get in there, and they're facing the Brewers, who definitely got solid bats like Christian Yelich, who had a bit of a resurgence. And then on the Diamondback side, you got young stars, Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, and I really think the pitching will play a big factor for these teams in this short series, especially facing Corbin Burnes and Freddie Peralta. I think those two in a short 3-game series is going to be the difference maker between these two teams, and I think the Brewers pull it off and win 2-1. Phillies and Marlins. You want to talk about a team getting hot at the right time? That's exactly what the Phillies did. And you want to talk about a team that's got tons of bats that can hit for power, average, do it all. That's the Phillies. You got Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, all turned their seasons around and got to the place they needed to be at the right time. The Marlins, also very impressive. Luis Arias, one of the best hitters we've seen in the past few seasons. Jazz Chisholm, always electric, and they definitely got tons of power they could have there with Jake Berger, Soler, and I think this is going to be a quick one, unfortunately, for the Marlins, but the Phillies are just so hot right now, and the guys you're going to see pitching for them in this short series, Wheeler, Nola, I think combined with the bats, it's just going to be a no-brainer. So give me the Phillies 2-0. That brings us to the American League Division Series, where I will start with Astros and Blue Jays. The Astros captured the American League West on the last day of the season, and the Blue Jays, they were in that wild card race pretty much all season. And the Astros, we all know, have much playoff experience, and they got one of their guys who's been there for all those playoffs back, Justin Verlander, and that is somebody that is not going to be fun to face in playoffs. And you never know, even guys that struggle throughout the year like Christian Javier, Framber Valdez had some games where he wasn't on his best stuff, but we know what they can do, and all they have to do is just flip that switch, get into playoff mode, and I think we could see this Astros team make a run. They definitely got the bats. The only guys we've really seen leave are George Springer, who they'd be playing against in this situation, and Carlos Correa. Besides that, they found the pieces to replace them with McCormick. Then you got Jeremy Pena, Bregman's still there, Altuve, Jordan is a crazy good, powerful hitter. It's just such a complete team that it's hard for most other teams to compete against them, and I think the Astros will have this against the Blue Jays and win this series 3-1. Rangers and Orioles. Now, if this series were to happen, this is a very exciting series that I would love to see, and I think it could honestly go all 5 games in this one. The Orioles have turned their season around from the year before and finished as the #1 seed. And the Rangers, like I've said, they got so many good bats in that lineup, and unfortunate for them that their pitchers have fallen down and not been able to have guys like DeGrom and Scherzer in this playoff race. With the Orioles, even their young pitchers stepped up for them, not just the bats in their lineup. Everybody on this team is starting to build that chemistry and connect, and they are looking for a long run into the postseason, and I think they will be able to pull off against the Rangers because I think they have the upper hand with the pitching. If those other 2 guys, Scherzer and DeGrom, were there for the Rangers, I think it would be a different story, but the bats are so hot in this lineup for the Orioles, and I think the pitching will be able to handle this part of the playoffs, and I think it will go those 5 games with the Orioles taking it all. National League Division Series, we'll start with the Dodgers and the Brewers. The Dodgers once again in the playoffs,
which I cannot stand.
And the Brewers, they had the grasp on the NL Central. That's how they got to this point. But I think we see a big difference here between these teams. The Brewers, they just don't have that same star power, that same talent that the Dodgers carry with them. Mookie Betts, MVP candidate, Freddie Freeman, one of the best all-around players in baseball, especially with his bat. He can hit for average, power, RBIs, whatever you need, he can do it. And they got a lot of their young guys called up to the major league level this year. James Outman, Bobby Miller, Preppius, Stone. Those guys are getting a taste of this, and it'll be their first taste of playoff baseball. So I think this is definitely a tilt in the scale, and I think the Dodgers are all the way down here with a much different talent level, and I think they know how to handle these situations. Even if they do have young guys in the playoffs, I believe they'll struggle, but I don't think the struggles will impact them yet against the Brewers. So give me the Dodgers winning this one 3-1. Braves and Phillies. We all know what can happen when a Phillies team gets hot in the playoffs. We saw it last year. They went all the way to the World Series, and the Braves, this team was absolutely nuts this year. If any team benefited from the rule changes the most, it was probably the Braves. You had Ronald Acuna, most likely going to win MVP. By the way, we're doing awards predictions at the end of the video, so stay tuned. Then you had the supporting cast around him. Matt Olson had 130 plus RBIs, 50 plus home runs. Dude went absolutely insane. Ozzie Albies, also a great player on that team. Michael Harris, Sean Murphy. They have too many weapons. Strider in the rotation. It's such a good team with so many star players, and I think this is going to be a very entertaining series. I don't think the Phillies will go down easily. I think it'll be a fight all the way to Game 5, but with just how good the Braves were all season long and kept all their guys healthy pretty much, I think the Braves are going to come out on top, win it 3-2. That means I have my ALCS as the Astros and the Orioles. As much as I want the Orioles to move on, that is going to be a tough task. Now, they were the top team in the American League this year, so you never know. They could surprise us, but the Astros, a lot of players on that team have been here before. They've been in the big games under the bright lights, and it changes your mindset when you're down on that field. A lot of those Orioles players are going to be getting that taste for the first time. It's not like guys who've been in the league for years and are finally getting this taste. This is a young core, and they are getting this taste. So who knows how they will step up in this situation. But the Astros still have Bregman, Altuve, Jordan, guys that have soaked in the biggest stage and won it at the biggest stage, and they still got those pitchers too. who have been in that same exact situation. I think we're going to see a few of these Orioles players crack under pressure. They will be tested for sure. I think it is definitely going to be a challenge, and I think it's going to be a surprise when they find out that the Orioles are going to give them a battle. So I honestly think this series could go 7 games, but I do think the Astros are going to be the team that comes out winning 4-3. National League Championship Series, Dodgers and Braves. We've seen these two meet at this stage many times. We've seen the Dodgers beat them and go to the World Series. We've seen the Braves beat them and go to the World Series, and we know the talent that is on both of these teams. Acuna, Olsen, Freeman, Betts, and much more. This is going to be a clash of titans, ladies and gentlemen, and I think it's going to be very entertaining. But I think the weak spot is going to be on the Dodgers, their young core. I told you, in the DS, I don't think it'll affect them, but here, against a very talented team of the Braves, I think we'll see it start to affect them. This is where I think we'll see like James Outman, the pitchers, Prepio, Miller, Stone, start to get affected. And not only that, they had so many injuries happen to their rotation throughout the season. Kershaw is getting up there in age, but he's also one of those guys like Verlander. No matter what, at any time, he could go back to that dominant Kershaw, and we could see him win a game for the Dodgers just with his arm. But those bats in that Braves lineup are going to be hard to stop. From 1 through 9, there's really no break. There's nobody that's like, oh, that's an easy out. There is always somebody in that lineup that could pop one out, that could get a base hit in a situational spot. This Braves team just feels too complete to me to be able to fall to the Dodgers, who are probably looking their weakest from all the past years that they've been making it to playoffs. But that's not to say that they are a very talented team. They are. They still are one of the best teams in baseball. But I think the teams we've seen from the past Dodgers playoff teams have been better, and I think they are running into a better Braves team. This Braves team, I honestly think, is going to be good for a long time. They got many of their guys locked up, and many of their guys are playing their best baseball in 2023. So I am going with the Atlanta Braves to beat the Dodgers 4-2, which means my World Series prediction is once again the Braves and Astros, a World Series we recently saw where the Braves came out on top. The Astros, they have been here constantly year after year after year with their veterans getting all that experience. They know what it's like to be on this stage, in the rotation, in the bullpen, in the lineup. They've all soaked it in. And the Braves, they've been here in the past few years, but they have not been at full strength in all of these playoff runs. This year in 2023, they got everybody. They got Acuna going nuts, Matt Olson going crazy. And like I've said in this video, that supporting cast around them is going to make them very tough to beat. They got it with the rotation. They got that bullpen to lock it down. When it comes to the Astros, even though they had that experience and they are in their stride, that they could be slowing down. And right behind them is the Braves. Full sprint, full stride. This team, I just don't see how anybody can beat them. They are too complete in my mind to possibly even consider that another team would come out on top. And that is why I have the Braves winning the World Series 4-2 over the Houston Astros. Now, that is what I think the World Series is going to be. Are you listening to me? That is what I think, but it is not what I want the World Series to be. This is what I want the World Series to be. Orioles, Phillies, picking one team from the American League and the National League. Orioles, because they're so fun and exciting to watch, and to see the turnaround after being so bad for so many years, and now they finish as the #1 seed. That's pretty cool. And for the Phillies, there's really only one reason, and it's Brandon Marsh. I just want to see Brandon Marsh win a ring. I loved Brandon Marsh when he was on the Angels, so to see him go on playoff baseball and win a ring, that'd be really cool. And I did not forget my award predictions. Let's do the MVPs right now. Shohei Ohtani, American League MVP. Come on, pitcher, hitter. He succeeds in both. He does them both amazingly. Acuna, historic year, first ever 70-40 season, and he just had easily the best year in the National League, if you ask me. The Cy Youngs, I'm going Garrett Cole in the American League and Blake Snell in the National League. Funny that these two guys, both not in the playoffs, in my opinion, are going to be the Cy Youngs, but they both dominated. Blake Snell, especially towards the end of the season, shut out baseball every single start, it felt like, and Garrett Cole, he definitely had a dominant end to his season. I think he threw a complete game shutout. And with the stats these two have to back it up, I think it's the easy choice. Rookies of the year, I got Corbin Carroll and Gunnar Henderson. Baseball is going to be looking good for the future, not only with these two guys, but there is so much young talent that is going to be leading the way for years to come. So thank you so much for watching my playoff prediction video. Another year where the Angels didn't make the playoffs. Oh my God. And I don't know how long it'll be before we get back there, but if you made it to the end of the video, then comment down below your World Series prediction. Who do you think is going to make it? Who do you think is going to win? Like the video, subscribe, tell your mom, your dad, your grandma, grandpa, pets, friends, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, everybody you know to subscribe. I got this, you got this, we all got this. I'll see you next time. Thank you.